breathing when I'm not supposed to be. Baji Keisuke found himself in a peaceful state of mind and body, something he shouldn't be feeling. He opened his gray eyes and tried to look around his new surroundings. There was something that he paid attention to more than most. He was covered in bandages, literally everywhere. How? Why? What the fuck? He whispered. He sat up and rubbed his stomach. Nothing stung or hurt there. He was pretty sure that he stabbed the front and Kazutora stabbed the back, right? He looked around and his dark long hair moved over his shoulder. It was a very worn down place. He was on a pretty comfortable mattress, but it didn't have a bed frame. There was a dresser with a mirror on top, but there was a knife stuck in the middle, leaving it in a million pieces both on the ground, dresser, and still on the mirror frame itself. In front of him was a closet, and there were only a few jackets in it. A longer white one, his Valhalla jacket, and 2 Tillman jackets. One of the Tillman jackets was more beat up than the other, so he assumed that the older one was his. Why was it in there, though? Baji looked towards the right and up. There was a sliding door that was open a bit, disturbing the curtain next to it with the breeze. He moved the blanket off of him and threw his feet off the mattress. He then winced at the slight pain it caused. Baji looked down and there was a small pile of gifts. The hell? He reached over and picked up the 3 of them. All of them were addressed to him with only a single initial to tell who it was from. And along with the initial, there was a small comment with a date on it. He decided to open the one that had his birthday for the date. You're 15 now, you old bitch, was what it said, and it made him laugh. So he must know this person for them to say something like this. There was one person that it reminded him of, but he shook it off because that person was supposed to be gone. He ripped open the package and gasped at what it was. That was wet inside. I never told anybody I wanted this, he whispered excitedly and held the small but fairly large spark and flare backpack chains. He hugged them and frantically looked around for any hidden cameras or some shit. Thankfully, they weren't. Baji set the very treasured keychains to the side and picked up the next one with the next closest date. December 26th. Why not the 25th? That's Christmas, isn't it? He asked, confused and kind of offended that it was the 26th and not the day of. Sorry, this is a day late. Taiji was being a butt, and because of that, I got my ass handed to me by Mr. Familiar Dragon Man. Who in the fuck is... Oh. Draken flashed in Baji's mind. Also, who the hell is Taiju? He muttered and looked around the room for a clue. The long white jacket coat thing that was in the closet stood out to him. He didn't want to get up, but he also really wanted to see what that coat was for. Probably another gang. He tore open the wrapping again and took off the top of the box. It was his ties that told everyone that he was the first division captain of the Tokyo Manji gang. He grabbed the white cloths with care as memories decided to make him sad. He put them to his head and regret filled him once he remembered that he basically left his best friend for someone else and had a completely different topic that he was chasing on a whim. He ran them through his calloused hands and felt that A, they desperately needed a wash, and B, they didn't smell like him anymore. They reeked of Takemichi. He growled in annoyance that someone actually let Takemichi wear his ties. Baji placed them also to the side and picked up the final wrapped box. January 1st. It was fairly smaller than the other two, but he didn't really care about that. Welcome to 2006, idiot. He froze for a minute. 2006? He deadpanned and shock started to replace the regret that he felt earlier. He calmly but hurriedly opened it. He was expecting something great, like a picture of the person who gave him these things or something. His expression dropped once he saw what was inside. How original. He deadpanned again and held his phone in front of his face. He powered it on and looked at the date to make sure that this package wasn't lying to him. His eyes widened. January 15th, 2006. It's been 3 months since the Valhalla and Toman fight? What happened that day again? He looked to the ceiling and thought, You aren't gonna kill me, Kazutora, Baji said from above Kazutora. He raised the blade above his head, preparing for the somewhat familiar pain of a stab. But he didn't feel it. He knew that he charged it towards his stomach, but the pain never came. A piece of hair that was not his own brushed against his nose. Jackass, was what the person in front of him said. He felt something warm cover his hands and he looked down. The blade that he was originally planning to put through his flesh was now through the flesh of this mysterious person. They took a hand out of their pocket and grabbed the blade and his hands. Baji saw that they had a gentle smile on their face and turned to look at him as well. You really thought another hole in your torso was gonna fix shit? They laughed and very gracefully ripped out the knife. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Wait a second, I know who that is. It's... One of the Valhalla lackeys started. He was shot down with a terrifying glare from the person. Baji saw something familiar in the way this person spoke and how their hair looked/moved. He then coughed up more blood. Oh, that's not a good thing, they said and grabbed his arms, then wrapped them around them. He wondered if they were talking about him or their sweater. Don't worry, I have to do laundry this week anyway. They smiled and patted his head. They were talking about him. Baji's consciousness was slowly slipping away and he could feel it. What's... name? he managed to get it out because he knew that he was not gonna last another 5 minutes. You really forgot? Man, oh well. I'll let it come to you. They grinned and let him pass out on his shoulder. You're all dumbasses, the lot of you. Kazutora, Mikey, Keisuke. Was the last thing that he heard them say before completely going out. There were also a few unidentifiable yells, but three of which were Draken's, Jifuyu's, and Takemichi's. Kazutora really did kill me, huh? So that's what happened. Man, I'm such a bitch. Baji insulted himself and finally decided to stand. He was wobbly at first, but got his footing. He looked at his phone once more and saw that he had multiple missed calls from his mother. He had probably scared her shitless. Multiple from Mikey and Shifuyu. He didn't exactly want to hear those, afraid that they were going to be meaningless letters to his sadly departed soul. And a text from a very old number. This number was the person who he assumed was dead this entire time. Hope you get up soon, jackass. I know you need your beauty sleep, but this is getting ridiculous. It was sent fairly recently, too. Nah, someone probably just picked up their phone and forgot to reset it. He said to himself, mainly saying that there was no way that his previous other closer best friend sent it. He remembered suddenly that their favorite swear was jackass for some reason. Baji shut off his phone and shoved it into the pocket of his sweatpants. He made his way to the closet to see whatever the hell was the white coat. The first thing he saw was the logo on the back. The two letters were B and D. Is this Black Dragon's uniform? It looks a fuck ton different. He grimaced at how formal it was now, and wasn't the uniform that he remembered Shinichiro wearing. He rather harshly pushed it back into the closet and shoved his hands into his pockets. He walked through the door frame and looked into the living room. Holy duck, it was dusty. He held his nose before he could sneeze. Like the room before, it was pretty worn down. But the coffee maker was on, and brewing something. He raised an eyebrow in confusion. To be fairly honest, this whole thing was confusing to Baji. He planned to prove Kazutora wrong by showing him that only Baji himself had the power to kill himself. And then he wakes up supposedly 3 months later in a strange and abandoned apartment with his wounds clearly improperly treated. He walked over to the coffee machine and touched it. He burned himself and proceeded to curse out the coffee maker. As he rubbed his burn, he then noticed the faint smell of cigarette smoke. He didn't know anybody that smoked, so that just added to his confusion. What the fuck is going on? He yelled and dropped onto the couch. He got up and grumbled about how fucking annoying this was. He went back into the room of which he woke up and looked around the drawers of the dresser. He found a sweater that seemed to fit him and threw it on. It somehow calmed him down, and then he went back to the couch. But then curiosity came over him again, and he jumped back up and went back to the closet. He shoved the two Tolman jackets apart so he could get a better look at them. One was definitely newer than the other one. Then he looked at the Valhalla jacket and scowled at it. The sudden urge to run out the door, find Kazutora, and totally fuck him up was hard to fight. But Baji breathed and calmed down. Definitely not an impulsive bastard, he grinned to himself while thinking of breaking someone's neck. You know what? I'm gonna burn this thing. Fuck it. He ripped off the Valhalla jacket off the hanger and threw it to the mattress to burn later. Now for these things. He looked back to the Tolman jackets. One said 1st Division, so that one was his, and the other one also said 1st Division. How convenient. What did I do to deserve such hellish torture? Baji dropped his head in defeat. He finally gave up and assumed that the older one was his. He did learn, though, that whoever this place belonged to was in Tolman, or Black Dragons. He had completely forgotten about the suspicious coffee maker in the other room, flopped down on the mattress, and started to scroll through his phone. He opened the news app and scrolled all the way back to the October news because that's where the gap started for him. Teen dies in gang squabble known as Bloody Halloween. So that's what they're calling it. He clicked on it. Baji read through the article, and a picture of him, Kazutora, and the familiar person appeared. Wait a damn minute. That's Wander. That fucker is actually alive? He yelled quite loudly. The yell then made some of the wounds that weren't completely healed yet hurt. Well, I'm alive. Even after the entirety of Shibuya thinks I'm dead. He shrugged, but then let the what the fuck shock come back to him. He was pissed. Not because of the fact that Wanderer was alive, but about the fact that they faked their own death and didn't tell him in the first place that they were actually fine. And when he was just coming to terms with it as well. He read over that Kazutora was arrested again for his murder, and there wasn't actually anything about Wander there, even though their picture was there. He got up from off the mattress and headed back to the couch, still staring at his phone. Baji let himself fall onto the couch, but his head didn't hit a cushion. A hand moved his phone from his face. Remember yet? Wanderer looked down at him with a tired smile. Baji could only stare into their eyes after 2 or 3 years of not seeing them. Like him, they were covered in bandages, and he assumed that they just came from a fight or something. They placed their other hand on his head and stroked his hair. Tora put that knife in pretty deep. You okay? They asked, and Baji was still at a loss for words. They laughed at his shocked state. Hi. They smiled and looked into his eyes. Was this really Wanderer's lap that he was laying in? He didn't know now if he was actually dead and this was heaven or it was real. Baji, without looking away, snuck an arm around and over them and hugged them a little too tight. Ow. I missed you too, jackass. Wanderer winced at the pain that started to spread through their back. They hugged him back, and Baji let the things that he remembered play through his head again. Which is the scenario he would have liked to happen when he did hit the couch. But alas, he did hit the cushion, and not in the lap of the person he desperately wanted to see. He wanted to try something. He let his head hang down over the armrest and looked straight. If the coffee maker was on it going, then that meant Wanderer was here recently or earlier. He opened the text from them. And he didn't know if they were going to respond because if they weren't there, they were probably doing something, and they're also the kind of person that takes 4 days to text you back anyway. He sent a simple hey, and to his surprise, the red title came on. They replied with a smiley face. Baji smiled and asked them where they were, but was left on red. He absolutely hated being left on red for literally anything, but despite his anger, he just had to deal with their antics. At least he had some confirmation that they were alive and were most likely the one that stopped the blade and the person who brought it back to life. He sat up and utilized the lonely coffee maker. Once he did make himself a cup, it hissed as if saying, "Thank God you used me." And he left. Although he was quite confused, he found some things comical, such as getting his phone regifted to him, the 2 First Division Toman jackets, and the coffee maker. Paid actors they must be. He took a sip, and whatever stress that was left to him slowly melted, and he found a new comfortable spot on the couch. He noticed a few rips and tears in some places, but that was expected. He kept scrolling through the news. Gang fight at church, December 25th. So they must have been there for that gift to be late. He didn't really see anything that would be of any importance to him, so he just turned off his phone and ran his hand through his hair. Baji finished his coffee, which didn't seem to last very long in his opinion, and headed back to the same room he had been frequenting all morning. Or was it afternoon? Well, the sun wasn't setting or rising, and it was light out, so he made an assumption once more and declared that it was in fact morning. He checked out the small bathroom that was off to the side for some reason, and to his satisfaction, it looked usable. He didn't want to go back to the mattress, even though it was tempting. So he opted to hang out on the lookout thing that he saw when he woke up. It was pretty chilly out there, so he thanked himself for putting on the sweater earlier. It also seemed to be very gray for a morning, but then again, it was January. Thankfully, it wasn't snowing though. He let himself slide down the other glass door inside. He watched as the warmth of his breath and the chill of the air met, creating a cloud that quickly disappeared. His mind then reeled back to Bloody Halloween. Damn, my life really could have ended that day. He laughed and once more ran his hand through his hair. What would have happened if Wander never stepped in and stopped him from stabbing himself? He laughed again at the stupid reactions that Mikey, Chifuyu, and the rest of the guys would probably have. And what happened to Kisaki? Wait, no more Kisaki for the rest of forever. Unless he passes him on the street. Then he might start some shit. How did they get there in the first place, though? A wait-a-damn moment came over him again. Baji really likes cycling through the same feelings, don't he? As he pondered this, a gust of cold air passed through him like a ghost and he snapped out of it. He then snapped at the wind when he came back to his senses. Baji wondered what to do after this. He set a list in his head of things he would make himself do. First priority, burn the Valhalla jacket. Second, technically actual first priority, find Wander. How the fuck was he gonna figure out what's happening without him, without the person who actually let him live a little longer? And maybe he'd give him a good hair ruffle for lying. Third, try to go back to Tomen. He was sure that he might not be able to go back because Mikey most likely already filled his position as 1st Division captain. Damn, this week was gonna be hard, wasn't it? I wonder how many people it hurt. Baji said with a sad smile. He waited for about another 2 hours just wandering, thinking, and watching the few passing cars below. In these 2 hours, he took note of how, like the apartment, the neighborhood was very rundown. And the gray skies just made them seem older. He felt his eyes get heavy and his hands were really ice cold by now, so he heaved himself up and headed back inside to the warm. He shuffled his way back to the mattress and let himself fall to it. But he forgot it didn't have a bed frame, so he scared himself when he remembered how low it was and when gravity reintroduced himself again. It woke him up a little bit, but the tiredness came back pretty quick. And then his wounds yelled at him. Baji groaned and shifted to make himself more comfortable again. He closed his eyes again, hoping that sleeping again would help him clear his head. He let go of all the stressing thoughts for now and drifted off. He wanted to see his friends and beat the shit out of Kisaki and give a good shot to Kazutora. He wanted to see Wander and talk to them so bad. One statement didn't flash in his head for a brief second that he smiled at before he fully fell asleep. Baji Keisuke did not die on Bloody Halloween.